Hi there BookTube, it's Eleanor here, and it's time to pick the next queen for my RuPaul's Drag Race TBR game. So let's get straight in and see which queen is going to be up for elimination this time. Okay, so I've got my queens here. I'm not looking. I'm gonna shut my eyes, spin them all around. I'm gonna go for this one, I think. This is Evie Oddly, an otherworldly queen. Pick a fantasy. So I'll need to pick a fantasy for this one. Okay, so for fantasy, I think I'm going to go for this one. I've been hearing lots of things about it recently, and I'm going to give it a go. It's Serpent and Dove by Shelby Maharin. So from what I can gather, this is a book set in a world where magic and witchcraft is strictly forbidden, and our main character is a witch, and she flees her coven and sort of hides out and forsakes all magic and is doing her best to get by without using magic. And then there is a boy who's a member of the church, and obviously they are used to root out all sort of magic and exterminate them, I suppose. And I don't know if they've got to get married or something's happening, and she's obviously hiding herself from him, and I think this is going to be interesting, and I've heard really good things, so I'm going to pick this for Evie's magical book. Okay, the next thing is to pick a challenge, because all good drag queens must compete in a challenge. So again, I'm not looking, mixing these around, and I'm gonna go for this one. It's the Snatch Game, and this is a celebrity memoir. So for Snatch Game, I have to read a celebrity memoir, so I'm going to go and pick one of them off my shelf. As it so happens, I had one on my shelf that I was very kindly gifted for Christmas, and that is Julie Andrews. It's called Homework, a memoir of Hollywood years. So this is Julie Andrews' memoir. I really enjoy a celebrity memoir. I really enjoy that sort of peek behind the curtain, and I really love Julie Andrews, so I'm looking forward to reading a bit more about her in this one. Okay, so with all good Drag Race episode, there must be a catwalk. So let's pick what the category is. I'm going for this one. Category is Death Becomes Her, a thriller or a crime book. Okay, so for that, I'm also going for a hardback. This is going to be a load of hardbacks. I'm going to go for If I Can't Have You by Charlotte Levin. From what I can gather, this is a You type story, but with a female stalker. All it says on the blurb is, Samuel, the day we met, I knew I'd finally found what I'd been waiting for. You. Happiness at last. And now I'm alone. Everyone I love leaves in the end, but not this time. I'm not giving up on us. I'm not giving up on you. When you love someone, you never let them go. That's why for me, it's just the beginning. Oh, it sounds so creepy. I think this definitely fits the bill. Okay, and the final challenge is to pick one of my 4 judges. I'll shut my eyes again and shush them all around. I'm going for this one. Ooh, Carson Kressley, A Fashionable at the Moment, a buzz book. I'll go and find a buzz book. Okay, I meant to read this one for a different drag queen, and it didn't turn out that way, but it's still buzzy. And since making that video, some of you have said how great this book was. So I'm going to read Cinderella is Dead by Kaylin Bayron, and this is going to be my buzzy book because I'm hearing amazing things about it. So I really have got 4 hardbacks to read. Let's just recap which ones those are. I've got Serpent and Dove, Julie Andrews' autobiography, If I Can't Have You, and Cinderella is Dead. So a stack here, and I'll come back and let you know how I get on. Okay, so it's been a little while since I started this because we've been away and I've been reading different things, and I just sort of haven't got to wrapping up what I've read so far. So I thought I'd come back and just talk to you about the first 2 books. So if you remember, it's Evie Oddly, and it's a fantasy, and I picked Serpent and Dove by Shelby Maharin, and I have finished this now. I listened to it on audio and followed along with the book, and I have to say, like, it was quite a hyped book, and I'm a little bit disappointed. It just really didn't hit the mark for me. A lot of people really enjoyed it, really talked about sort of the witchy aspect, and talked about the fact that it was a YA with a bit more sort of a steamy feel to it. And I was just left feeling like, is this ever going to end? It felt very boring. There wasn't much action. There became a bit more action sort of towards the end. There was this like action element there, but it was just such a ploddy book. I just felt a bit bored, really. So I mean, the basic idea is you've got witches and they're hunted and they're outcasts and they're burnt and they're killed on sight by this sort of order of religious people that believe, you know, that they should be done away with. And then we end up having a witch who a witch girl who's been sort of hiding her powers getting captured and being forced to hide that she's a witch, so they don't know, and she's forced to marry one of them so that she doesn't end up in trouble. And it was just, I wasn't so keen. It was okay, it was easy enough to listen to, but it wasn't one that I would be sort of saying, oh, this was brilliant. So I gave this one 3 stars. And then if you remember, the category was Death Becomes Her, a thriller or a crime novel. And I'd picked up If I Can't Have You by Charlotte Levin. And I got halfway through this and I was just not enjoying it. I don't like this type of writing. The author has done it so that the main character is talking to this man that she's obviously obsessed with, and something's obviously happened and she's talking about it in the past. You know, she's like, my therapist said I must talk about it, blah blah blah, and she's saying, oh, when you did this and when you did that. And I don't enjoy that so much. I didn't like You, the book You, which is quite popular for a similar reason. And I know it's meant to sort of build suspense and build this idea of like stalkering and this uneasiness, but I just couldn't get on board with it, so I've DNF'd that one. But I have decided that I'm not including DNFs in this sort of project. I want to have a finished book with an actual rating, so I haven't started it yet, but I've picked this off my shelf. I'm going to read this. It Ends With You by S.K. Wright. So I've got this on audio as well, so I'm going to be picking up that one, but I haven't started yet. Okay, so my judge was Carson Kressley, and it was a fashionable book, and I hadn't picked this up last time. I'd end up swapping it out, and this time I said I'm going to read this one, and I did. And oh, I'm so pleased I did, and I'm so pleased that one of you said in the comments that you'd read it and how great it was. It's Cinderella Is Dead by Kaylin Bayron, and I didn't know much about this apart from it was sort of this play on the Cinderella story, and I just loved what the author has done with this. It's so creative and so interesting. You've basically got this village or town with a castle where the king lives there, and years ago, 200 years ago, Cinderella lived there with her prince, and they'd met at the ball, and the whole story, and it's become this sort of rite of passage that every girl has to go to a ball, and she has to be dressed as beautiful as possible, and there she is picked by a man, and she doesn't get any choice in it. She's picked by whoever. Some men pick 2 women, and if you're not dressed suitably you can get taken away as a forfeit, and you're not allowed to love who you want to love. You know, it's girls and boys and that is it, and you have to go and do this at a certain age, and if you don't get picked in your first year you have to go back and try again, and you can only try 3 times, and then you have to go and work at the castle, I think. And our main character is gay and doesn't want to do this, and she knows she loves her best friend Erin, and she's trying to encourage Erin for them to run away, but it's not easy. It's very, you know, very oppressive rule, and people will turn on you at a moment's notice. And so it's coming up to this ball that they're both going to have to go to. Erin doesn't want to run away with her. She wants to do the right thing. She wants to go to this ball, and just things transpire. We start to learn a bit more about the sort of dark elements of this palace life and what has been going on there and what Cinderella's life was really like, and this story that they have in their house, which is treated almost like the Bible, which is this Cinderella book that they all have to have in the house and they all have to read from. And there's very strict curfews, like women and children have to be in the house by, or women and girls have to be in their house by 8 p.m. and they're not allowed out, or they can get fined or get into a lot of trouble. There's very specific rules. They're not allowed to carry money. So it really has been turned into this sort of man's world, and it's just a really interesting and fun story, and there's full of adventure, and it was brilliant. I really loved it. I wouldn't quite give it 5 stars, but it was definitely a 4-star for me. Once I got into it and I got reading and I got hooked, I couldn't put it down. So a really strong 4 stars, which I'm really pleased with. So I've got to read that thriller book, and then I've got to finish my Julie Andrews autobiography, which is okay at the moment. I'm listening to it on audio. I'm just listening to it in bits and bobs, and it's quite interesting learning about her life. And I'll come back to you when I've read those and let you know those ratings, and we can see if Evie Oddly has to lip sync for her life, or if she is instantly Shantae staying. We shall see, but I will come back to you when I've read those. Hi guys, so I'm checking in again, and I've finished the next 2 books, which is all of Evie Oddly's first picks. So I had Death Becomes Her, and I ended up picking this one up in the end, called It Ends With You by S.K. Wright. This is a book written from multiple perspectives. It's a YA sort of thriller book, and it's about, well, we start off with a girl who has been found murdered in the woods, and all signs sort of point towards the boyfriend, and we're flitting between various different people and unravelling the story as we go along. So I was a little disappointed with the ending of this one. It just fell a bit flat really. It was quick, it didn't really wrap up properly. I think the point of it was to sort of leave this ominous feeling, but it didn't. It just, yeah, it wasn't the one. So I ended up giving this 3 stars. The next one was The Challenge, which was Snatch Game, and it was to read a celebrity memoir, and I picked up Homework by Julie Andrews. Again, this ended up not being my favourite. There just wasn't, I mean, you can't fault it because it's Julie Andrews' life, and there's things, you know, in terms of what she did in her life, it's very interesting. But I just felt that there wasn't much sort of, I don't know, there wasn't much excitement for you to sort of drag you through the pages. It just felt a bit mundane at times, a bit like, and then we did this, and then this happened, and then we went here, and then this happened. And I don't know whether it was just the formatting or the way it was written, or the style of writing, but it just didn't work for me really. So although it was interesting to have a peek into Julie Andrews' life, and sort of you briefly go through her childhood, although I believe that her earlier memoir tells you a little bit more about that, and this is more about the sort of Hollywood years. You see a bit about her in all the different film roles that she took, and sort of how she got into those roles and how it came about. And as I say, although that was interesting, I just felt like it was a little bit dry, and I would have liked something a bit more. So I ended up giving this one 3 stars too. So that means that I've now got 14 points for Evie Oddly, and that's not enough for her to get straight through to the next round, so she's going to have to lip sync. So let's get the lip sync cards out. They're here. Let's give them a shuffle. I'm going to shut my eyes, pick this one out. I'm going for this one here, and it is Greedy by Ariana Grande, a book you will gobble up. So I will come back to you and let you know which book I decided to read for that. If it gets 5 stars, then Evie will stay. If it doesn't get 5 stars, it'll be sachet away for Evie. So we'll have to see, and I'll come back to you and let you know how I get on. Okay, so I finished Acting on Impulse, which was my lip sync Greedy by Ariana Grande, a book you will gobble up. And I did gobble it up. I read this really quickly and I really did enjoy it. It's a story about a personal trainer, and she's been in a relationship with a politician until one day he announces live on radio that he's not in a relationship. And so she wonders why she's been putting up with this sort of more celebrity lifestyle that she's really not interested in. So she takes herself off to Aruba for a holiday. just for a few days. Also on that flight, and who happens to sit next to her, is a famous actor who's famous for starring in sort of TV shows as the heartthrob, and he is just taking a break between filming. He's just filmed a new role in quite an important film for him, and more of a drama, where he's had to lose an awful lot of weight for his character, and so he's quite unrecognisable. He's got this big beard, he's looking very different, so people don't recognise who he is. They end up in the same hotel, and this sort of spark flies between them. They become sort of friends, and then there's this kiss. Then she finds out who he is, and the story sort of unravels from there. She ends up having to be his personal trainer for a new role, and we just follow along with their journey. It was really good, it was really nice. It wasn't mind-blowing, there wasn't anything in here that I was like, oh, that's brilliant, but it was a really nice read. It definitely fit the lip sync for Gobble Up book, so I gave it 4 stars. So if you remember, Evie had 13, so adding that 4 to it gives us 17, which isn't enough to save her, unfortunately. So Evie Oddly will be sashaying away. So I will come back to you soon with my next drag queen, and we'll find out if they're going to Shantae stay or sashay away. Bye for now, BookTube.